Hi guys, so today's video is going to be on the various insects available in the hobby for live food, as well as the ways that I gut load them. So we'll start off with basically all of the types of live food available. We'll talk a bit about the nutritional value of them, which is the best, which is sort of recommended as sort of the worst. So we'll go from there. So currently available in the UK. Actually, I'll start off by saying, unfortunately, in the UK, this is what I'm going to base my speaking on, is on the UK live food. Unfortunately, we do not have hornworms over here, as the moth that basically they turn into is regarded as an invasive species. Well, potentially invasive. So unfortunately, we're not allowed them over here. However, we have got other live foods. So we'll start off with, we basically have mealworms, giant mealworms, Mario worms, as well as fruit flies, bean weevils, wax worms, calci worms, occasionally butterworms when they come in from Chile. We also have silkworms, various cockroaches. To be fair, most of the cockroaches that are available can be used for feeders, stuff like the banana roaches, dubia roaches, Turkestans or red runner roaches, Madagascan hissing roaches, as well as death head roaches. Can be used for live feed. And also we have the various crickets. So we have the two types of crickets, these which are called the brown or silent crickets. They're not really silent as adults. The males do chirp, like all crickets really. And the African black-field crickets. Now we also have locusts, which are quite a good food source. Unfortunately, they are relatively difficult to breed due to their heating requirements. So we'll go on to nutritional value-wise. We'll start from the least nutritional, work our way up to the top. So at the bottom, for basically the least nutritional out of them all, is mealworms. Now they are regarded as probably one of the worst foods in nutritional-wise, just because they don't sort of hold a lot of nutritional value for reptiles anyway. They can also be quite bad for stuff like young bearded dragons if fed in too much of an amount. They're not really recommended for a stable food diet. The reason they can be trouble for young bearded dragons is due to the actual, like the chitin on the exoskeleton. It's quite rough and can be quite difficult to digest, so it can sort of build up in the stomach lining, as it is quite sort of short-tracked. Now, slightly above these guys is sort of wax worms. They're very high in fat content, which is why they're sort of recommended as not a stable diet as well. They can cause sort of reptiles to become overweight. And another issue associated with them is reptiles can become sort of quite addicted, which is bad, as it means it can be an issue to get them onto other live foods that are much more nutritious. So we then have crickets. Now crickets are a relatively nutritional live food as long as you gut load them. Otherwise, the way they come in the pet stores or from when you buy them, they're sort of not very high in nutrition. The reason for that is they only hold food in their stomachs for about 24 hours. The nutrition's there before it's sort of gone. Now, above these guys is locusts. Now, locusts are known for being quite good for reptiles. They got very good nutrition in them. Next up is roaches. Now, cockroaches are extremely good. They have brilliant nutritional value, and are regarded as one of the best feeders. And right above them is the silkworms. Now, silkworms are brilliant feeders. They have an excellent calcium to phosphorus ratio, which is perfect for reptiles. They are recommended as part of a stable diet. The only issue is sometimes they can be quite hard to actually get hold of, which can be an issue. So we'll go on to how I gut load these guys. So in here, I'm going to go through the 2 feeders I have at the moment, which is these brown crickets. I have some smaller brown crickets and also these giant mealworms. I don't often get giant mealworms. Usually I just get them as sort of a treat for the reptiles and stuff I keep, just for a bit of difference. So start off with not the cockroaches, the crickets. I am planning on getting another cockroach colony, potentially getting some Turkestans or red runners. So we'll start off with these guys. So like I said, they can be okay if you sort of gut load them. And I'll go through how I gut load these guys. So I have about 500 crickets in here. I am trying to get them to potentially breed using this dirt tub here. So it's always best with gut loading to use a range of foods. Now, foods I would sort of advise against is stuff like lettuces as a main diet for them. The problem with lettuce is it doesn't really have any nutritional value whatsoever. The only thing it has in it is water. Now that does work quite well if you don't want to use the water crystals. You can use that as a water source. So today I'm going to be giving them some carrot. Now carrot is a good feeder for these guys. It's got a lot of vitamin C and other vitamins that will then be passed on to your reptiles. I am putting in some various types of lettuce. This is just for the water content for these guys, just to give them that water. And I'm using rocket. Now, for you guys that own bearded dragons or other sort of vegetarian species of reptile, you may know that rocket is quite a good feeder. It has quite a lot of nutrients in it. So this is what I'm going to feed them today. Now there are some other feeders that you can feed your live food. Some of the best include stuff like sweet potato, beetroot, as well as other sort of food sources that you can find. Stuff like oranges I sometimes feed as a bit of fruit boost for them, as well as peppers. Basically, you want to feed them a lot of fresh food. I never feed leftovers. I always feed fresh food to put into them. Now, I do add occasionally some dog food biscuits. Now, this is a good source of protein. Obviously, your dogs have it to give them a good diet, and the crickets will eat them. Now, I will also use for the crickets fish flakes. Now, the thing with fish flakes is they can contain quite a lot of vitamins and good additives for your reptiles, stuff like spirulina and other stuff. Now this can be known as a sort of a colour enhancer for the reptiles, and they can be seen to have better colours with this. So I basically usually will just sprinkle some in the cage and allow the crickets to sort of eat it over time. Now, I don't always feed just this. I will feed other stuff. I will say with the dog food, you don't want to feed too much of it because of the high protein. Basically, stuff like cockroaches won't hold it all, so they will sort of store it. And you don't want to be putting all of that then into your reptile, as it can cause stuff like gout, because then that reptile's sort of got built up protein that it can't have and can't sort of use. So we'll go on to the giant mealworms. Now these guys, exactly the same. I'll throw in some greenery on the top for their water and some other variety for them. I always try and give variety of diet for them, as well as the other feeders, to try and then give that goodness to the reptiles. They will also eat the fish flakes and a couple of dog biscuits also. They'll sort of eat that. And I'll just grab the small crickets and show those guys. So, due to the colour of the box, it might be slightly difficult to see. I'm not too sure how it will come out. But these are the small crickets. Now, these guys I use for my slings or spiderlings, for you guys that don't keep tarantulas, as well as my Draco or flying dragon. Now, you may know some info about those guys. They are primarily anteaters in the wild, so they actually will probably hundreds of those guys a day. So the important thing for me is to always pack as much nutrition and basically vegetable matter and stuff into these sort of small feeders here to then give onto the Draco, to try and sort of best mimic the sort of vitamins and nutrition it would be taking in the wild. So all of my feeders, when I feed them, will get exactly the same food of that day, and I'll change it up sort of every couple of days. Now, it is sort of quite vital to always change the food out of the cage. You don't want to let it go moldy and sort of cause bacteria or mites to go into where your live foods are. You want to keep them just as healthy as you would be your reptiles, to get sort of the best results and the best health out of your reptiles. So thanks for watching the video, guys. If this helped you out, leave a like and subscribe for more content. Don't forget also, I will be planning for when I hit about 150 subscribers or more, if I've had enough questions put down, I will do a Q&A and answer some. So if you've got any other sort of reptile related questions, want to know sort of what got my interest into reptiles, or want to know any sort of tips or anything you want to know on how to care for various species, or want to even see some species in the video, then drop the questions or requests down below. And thanks for watching, guys.